Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Out for Smokes podcast. And don't complain that we have a guest, okay? That's freaking weird when you guys do that.
Oh, great.
No, because they go, what the fuck is this? Who is this person in here?
Yeah, they act like our podcast is a sleepover that they invited us to, and we brought someone else to their sleepover.
I got some explaining to do. Great.
Yeah. Okay, but let me introduce our guest. He is the host of Tom D NYC on YouTube. He is a great stand-up comedian. We probably go back at least 10 years, I think. Right?
I definitely remember you from more. I remember you from when I started.
Yeah,
11, 12 years ago.
Yeah. Mr. Tom Delgado is on the Out for Smokes podcast today. Hello, Tom.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. And how's it going? We got I would say we got a banger. We got a banger plan today.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so.
We got an episode about the subway systems.
Mm-hmm.
The city.
The city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why the city would even have subways. Basically, I mean, well, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got a lot to talk
the
about.
city and the development of this subway, well, they go hand in hand in a very kind of annoying way. The more and more you read about it, it's just all roadblocks and shit. We could have flying cars at this point. That's what learning the history of the New York City subway makes you go, Jesus Christ! Every step of the way, there's some guy like, but I was supposed to be involved. I would like money.
Yeah.
And then litigation, and then litigation.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up. But before we get into that, Tom, give us a little background. Just
on
give
the
us
subway or myself?
Give us a little background on yourself.
Oh,
you
okay.
Are
So you were talking about my YouTube channel, Tom D NYC. I was certified. Thank you very much. New York City tour guide. Yeah, that's right. You have to get certified in New York. I did that for a few years for a living, and I started a YouTube channel. And then I just, study the city, and I have the YouTube channel. I run a monthly show about New York City where I interview different professors, experts, and all that stuff once a month. And
Scott, are you certified in anything?
Certified. I was certified loss prevention. I had to get certified. I had to go to Brooklyn.
Okay.
New York?
Okay.
Yeah,
Dude, New York makes you get certified for everything.
everything.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to get certified to sell food on the subway.
Not
everything.
moving.
Yeah,
I've never
so
been certified.
they can penalize you for when something goes wrong. They go, well, technically you were certified, and then it's all your responsibility.
And you got to pay the fees.
Yeah,
and you got to
exactly.
take a test to be a tour guide, man.
Yeah.
You got to take a multiple choice test.
Yeah, so if an AC unit falls on your head, they go, he was actually trained to dodge those.
You can't sue us.
He just acts like it's like the Force and just throws it on the other side.
Yeah.
Are you certified in anything?
I used to sell and rent real estate, so I had
Okay.
a real estate license. Yeah.
Okay.
Why'd you stop?
It's got to feel good.
I was the most stressful thing I've done in my life because you're just on call 24 hours and you have no idea how much money you're going to make in a given month.
Right.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're making way more than you do at a regular job, and then other times you're like, "Damn, it's halfway through the month and I've made $0."
Oh, God.
Like I am in debt
comedy.
right now.
Yeah.
And
Every job is kind of bad. It's good and bad in its own way.
Well, sales is brutal. That kind of stuff is brutal, man.
Yeah.
Because then not only do you have to make your own money, you also have to go out there and convince people to give you money pretty much. It's like, as an artist, you have to make money too, and it's unpredictable. But at least you don't have to go out and convince people to give you their money that way.
Yeah.
That sucks.
The ones who make money do that, though.
Yeah, they do. And they're on the phone, and they call, and they're just schmoozing and yelling
at friends who you find out they yell at people on the phone. You go, fucking what? I would hang up on you immediately.
You filled out the card, you fucking idiot.
You fat idiot. I would hang.
Yeah.
What agent or
How
manager
dare
would
you
let
waste
you
my
yell at
time?
them?
You want this timeshare or not? Yeah. So anyway, check out all of Tom's stuff. So I want to take you guys back to the year 1863.
Oh.
Now, Tom, in 1863, England had its own underground subway track. And there were plans of doing them in America, right?
Yeah.
So almost like as soon as they invented the regular choo-choo train, they said...
That's what they called it there, too. Yeah. So we're going to call it the choo-choo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, we can sacrifice thousands of Chinese immigrants building an above ground train.
Yeah.
But we need one in the city below the ground.
Yeah.
Now I think it's funny that in 1863 the Civil War was being fought.
Sure.
You would think that would be at the forefront of everybody's mind, but some guy was like, it takes too long to get from 125th.
What's up
to
with this
34th.
traffic, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fucking bullshit. They got to do something about this.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, actually, one of the famous streets was Broadway. Broadway was so congested, like there was like an actual hazard to cross the street.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't like kids weren't allowed to cross the street because they would get killed. They would get killed by like omnibuses, which are basically horses pulling these big wagons that are on tracks, and people all over the place. It was complete pandemonium. So that was one of the big reasons they were like, we got to put this thing underground in some way. But before the subway, they actually had the elevated railway. And that came first. Because I guess it was just easier to get that up. But
the
that was
idea being there's buildings in the way, we can't,
and digging it and all that stuff, and then also the problems with the lawsuits and having to demolish buildings and all that stuff. But they got the elevated up first, and that helped. But they were still steam, and that was one of the big reasons they weren't put underground completely. And once the electric train came, that's when they went subway.
Well, they probably started building it in 1863 because that's when the draft riots in New York were. And they're like, we got to give these Irish people something to do so they don't just kill random black men instead of protest going to war.
The famous draft riot.
I'm happy to announce that you boys can just ride the train all day. And they're like, cool, can we drink on it?
Well, so wait, it was 1863 in England, right?
What, the draft riot?
No.
The underground.
The underground.
That's when they had their
and then
underground
1863 in the United States, that like there was that one dude, Alfred Beach, who was like, hey, we could do this. Was that
so
around
Alfred
that time?
Eli Beach was the guy who did the pneumatic tube.
Yeah, exactly.
That came a little later, but in
Okay.
1863 was the first time that they floated the idea of a subway. And in 1870 was when Eli Beach created this like pneumatic tube. Like the tubes you have at like the post office
Yeah,
or
it's
the
air.
bank.
It's air pressure.
Yeah, it like sucks the thing over to the other side, and they actually built it.
Yeah.
And it
How
only
far did
lasted,
it go?
It only went like a block.
Yeah, it's
But
in
no
way.
Ghostbusters too, though.
Really?
It is.
Yeah.
And also, it was funny because it lasted for like 3 years, and he had to hide it and do it at night and like get rid of the dirt because of Boss Tweed, who was the guy who was the most corrupt guy in New York history, and he would have gotten pissed if he had known that they were doing it without his permission or giving him money.
Yeah.
So after 3 years, they bailed on it, and it just sat there until like the early 1900s. They just kind of ran into it. They're like, holy crap, what's this thing down here? And there was a piano and all this stuff because it was a fancy thing, and it was just sitting there, like rotting away.
Yeah. I went to the Transit Museum today, and you look at like all these old timey photos, and you're like, people were doing this stuff in like the 1800s. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
And then like 100 years later, they did the Holocaust. Like they had all these like good ideas, and then they had a really bad one, like 130 years later.
You're talking about involving trains? You're talking about the purpose of trains?
Yeah, I guess trains were a big part.
Trains were a part
The
of that.
use of trains?
Yeah. That could be a thing. A guy who wants to stop the Holocaust, instead of killing Hitler, he kills the guy who invented the train. And there's just no.
Well, you know what's crazy?
There's no trains and just billions of Jews running around.
Well, you know what's crazy is all those companies.
Like a field? a train trackless field.
Billions of Jews complaining about how much Ubers are and how long it takes to get everywhere.
The world, there's like 17 billion Jews. All right.
Like deer.
Don't that was just a joke. Don't demonetize us.
Yeah.
When you say we said Holocaust a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
We
so
had a little
Alfred
strike.
Beach, though,
Yeah.
the prick that he like signed the contract with, he told the guy that he was gonna make it for mail. Like they were two tubes for mail. And he was like, I'll make 2 tubes underground for mail. And then he went underground and just made one giant tube, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking put people underground or traveling. And he's right, he did it as a complete secret.
Yep.
He changed like the contract agreement, and then again it got held up because he was a liar. And so you go down there, you go, what are you doing? This isn't what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, the future is now. And he was right.
Yeah.
But
It failed.
they ain't got time for that shit.
Yeah.
But it's crazy when you think. So 1863, they're like, we should have a subway here because England has one.
Yeah.
And then it took until like 1904, right? Was when the
1904
first
was when it opened. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for 40 years, people were just kind of people who were like, well, I own all the horses in this town, so
Right.
fuck that.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
No fucking way is there going to be a train. And so in that 40-year period, so many people could have so many autistic people could have ridden on the train and just didn't get to.
No, they didn't. They got robbed. But also,
Yeah.
you had the elevator railways. Someone wanted to build those, and then those were built. And then the guy who actually ended up Belmont, who ended up building the first line of the subway, bought those elevator railways, which is one of the reasons why they were able to start with the subway as well. He kind of consolidated all of it.
So none of those elevated railways from back in the day are operational.
No, they tore them down. Well, there are. Like the elevated rails in Brooklyn are based on the elevator rails out there.
Okay.
The ones in Manhattan were all torn down.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Another problem is the way that they used to dig subways is it's called something.
It was cut and cover.
Cut and cover, which is you dig a hole just wherever is in the land, and then you cover the hole, and you would just destroy the entire city if you did that.
And then like tons of what's crazy is like they just had these massive holes all over the city. Like I think it was like I think it was like 30 something horses died. They just they just fell into these holes, and like I think it was like 19 or something people died just falling into these holes that were everywhere. There were just holes like 30 feet deep everywhere.
And there wasn't like a orange caution.
There were, but I guess people just fell into them anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, dude, everything was in black and white back then.
Right.
There wasn't an orange caution, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also like how you hear stories, not so much in the U.S., but in England, where they were making the first underground trains, that priests and stuff were like, they're trying to send a train to hell. Like they're trying to create a train, put military guys in it, and go to hell. They're trying to conquer hell, and they were like concerned about that, which wasn't the case. But geez, you kind of wish it was, right?
Yeah.
We focused a little more time on trying to get to hell.
Yeah.
Maybe we wouldn't have so many problems.
Sounds like the G train late at night. If you ask me. Huh?
Oh, dude, I lived off the G train forever.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
You think that's the worst train?
Well, it's definitely the worst with the schedule, man. If you're late and you're just like, oh, it's late at night, you're like, damn it, I got to ride the G train. You're going to be in there for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever.
Let me get your top 3, bottom 3 lines.
Right.
The top 2, easy, is 7 and the L. Those are the top. The
L.
Yeah.
Yeah, you show up on the G train, there's like a guy with his head in his lap and like a woman who's been dead for 700 years. It's like the creepiest dinner party you've ever been to in your life. It is a ghost train.
It's terrible. But it's also because it just runs through Queens and Brooklyn. They don't really care to make it run more often.
But it's the only one that runs through Queens and Brooklyn.
It's the only one that doesn't have any like anything in Manhattan at all.
Yeah.
No connection. So that's probably why it's such crap.
I guess I'm a bit of a G train apologist.
Why is that?
It's just because it's the only train that goes, like if you've got Long Island City to Carroll Gardens, you can get there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
cutting through. But those, you know why the 7 and the L are the best? There's actually they have a system. The signal system on them is actually more modern than all the other trains, meaning that they can run more trains. It's like digital. But all the trains, by the way, the reason there's delays and stuff is because the trains get too close to each other. They have to let them build more space. And because they have a special system, they're allowed.
I thought it was because Eric Adams is a fucking jerk off.
Well, we don't have enough time for that one. We got to start another episode for that. But it's basically that, and they have a special system that allows them to put more trains and to get closer to each other.
Okay.
And we should tell the listeners about basic subway etiquette. Like, if you have trash, just throw it directly onto the tracks.
Yeah,
that'll take care of it quicker. The trains will burn it up.
That's right.
Yeah, and
if you
it
see
keeps it out of the landfill.
Right, and if you see anything strange, just stare at that person as long as possible.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
That's best for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to let them know that you know.
Exactly.
Right. They love that.
Yeah, people. You do that. Throw trash on the third rail specifically.
Right.
Yeah, we got an Out for Smokes prank going where if you just grow out a really long beard and bring a backpack on the subway and leave it and walk out.
Yeah.
And if all our listeners do that, I think something cool will happen.
Yeah.
Do they care about that anymore? Are they big on bags on trains? I assume people are just grabbing them now and opening them.
Why do you turn British when you ask a question? You do that a lot.
Because questions are for smart people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know actually. It seems like wasn't there like a few months ago they thought there was a package in Times Square or something, and they thought there was like a, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I don't think so. There's so much other crazy stuff happening on the subway. You wouldn't even notice like a bag sitting there.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, what did you think of the Transit Museum?
I went to the transit museum today. Brought my
Yeah.
kid. Because my wife wanted to clean, so I said I'm gonna take him to the transit museum. I'm gonna learn and prepare for this show.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn a single thing because he just ran around the transit museum.
Did he like it?
He had the time of his life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was
dream
great.
come true.
Yeah, yeah. We go in and he goes, "Oh my god! Oh my god!"
Yeah, I think 2 is when they start showing signs of autism.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Hey, who cares? I hope it's that kind of autism.
Yeah, right. This is
know?
pretty benign.
Is there sort of like a hero of the subways that they acknowledge?
Yeah, his name is Bernie Goetz.
We're gonna get into that.
Oh no! Oh no!
Bernie Goetz, Daniel Perry.
boy.
Well, we've talked about the men who built the subway.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the men who
made it
defended
great.
it.
Oh my god.
Let's
No,
talk
well,
about the
also,
men who
though-
made it safe.
Just to acknowledge how shitty the subway was for so long, even in like the 30s, 40s, and the 50s, right? It was maybe not the 50s, but it was mostly like private contractors were making these subway systems. So they were all like competing in neighborhoods. They weren't even trying to benefit the city
Right.
and trying to get people place to place. They were just
Yeah.
trying to say like, hey, look how good I am at making a train in your town.
Yeah.
Hey, look how good I am at making a train in your town. And they just kept shitting the bed for the actual city.
Right.
And then LaGuardia spent like
There you go. Yeah.
today's estimate, it's like $7 billion. Fucking
Yeah.
LaGuardia bought the trains back,
Well, yeah.
right?
What was interesting too is you're right. The first 2 companies were private, so they built and they competed with each other, but they didn't like cooperate. It made it much more like cumbersome and difficult. But then what's interesting is they started another company, a public one, to basically sink the first 2. Like the purpose of the public
Yeah,
company
yeah,
was
yeah.
to bankrupt the other 2, completely like just death blow.
That's a good use of political power.
is.
Because that would be the equivalent today of like Bernie Sanders becomes president and then executes the executives like Delta and American Airlines and just makes it all one like, yeah.
Or no,
Like-
it would be like if Bernie became president and started an airline that was super cheap and put all the other ones out of business and
Yeah.
then assumed those airlines and
Yeah.
took all their planes.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it'd be like.
Yeah, but that's a good. I mean, that's a good story because it's like you really do have to like use your power. You have to like cheat when you have power. If you believe you're doing the right thing, you gotta play a little dirty.
Yeah, but that was just like the way things were in this country during the New Deal, 40s, 50s, and it doesn't work that way anymore. Where it makes complete sense that there are certain utilities that they should be in, a state-owned enterprise or a government-run company, whatever the case may be. And so you can just stand up a government one, and then it will outcompete the private ones. And something like manufacturing now in the United States. Joe Biden, they talk about the CHIPS Act and his other Inflation Reduction Act is supposed to bring back manufacturing. All these things do is they just give tons of subsidies to private companies.
Right.
And these are private companies, in the case of the CHIPS Act, that have spent billions on stock buybacks, NVIDIA and et cetera. So it's like we're just giving billions of dollars to companies that are already spending billions on stock buybacks because since the Reagan era, it doesn't matter if a Democrat is president. We're just so allergic to this idea that you can have a state-owned corporation that would actually do things to provide utility to people.
Right,
It all has
right.
to be done through the private sector with public money.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's right. And it happens here a lot in New York as well. You're right. And it's funny because like you don't even need to have a company or you don't have to nationalize everything either. Like the idea of like PBS, for example.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea behind having one public option is to keep the others honest.
Yeah.
Right.
If you put one public channel on there where they're actually giving you real news,
Right.
the other ones are like, oh shit, well we can't actually lie out our faces all the time anymore because they're actually telling the truth. So get rid of the public thing and then they can just run amok.
Right, because if Sesame Street exists, kids will still watch YouTube shorts that give them brain damage. I think they'll just
Sesame
watch
Street talk.
videos of Spider-Man's head exploding for some reason, and you come in the room and you go, "What the fuck is this?"
Sesame Street exists now to convince kids cities are safe, so they come here and get murdered on the subway. It's a shame.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have Sesame Street being like cities are safe, and then you have like PragerU kids being like your throat will get slit if you set foot in a city. They will kill you. They will slit your mother's throat in front of you. Yeah.
Which I didn't know. So obviously crime went up in the 80s all over the city, and then the subways got real bad, right? And like the graffiti was very bad on the trains. But I didn't know there was a statistic in like 1986 or some shit that less people were riding the train than in 1910.
Yeah.
So like everybody abandoned ship on trains. That's
In
how
the 80s.
dangerous they perceived
Well, you
them
know,
and or were.
The graffiti got so bad in the 80s, and it only got better when Banksy came through and started putting real art up.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's true. And like I think it was 86 was like the peak of the danger. It was like 80. I think it was like 8,300 robberies on the subway that year.
In 86.
In 86.
That sounds like the same guy getting robbed and like 10 times every night.
Wait, so here's another interesting statistic. Ridership, during the height of COVID, ridership was down 90%, but the number of people getting hit by trains was the same.
Well, I've actually, because I read people getting hit by train stats, and it's mostly people killing themselves.
Is it?
So that makes sense for during COVID for people to be jumping in front of
Right,
trains.
it's like 90% people killing themselves and 10% Scott's sister.
Getting hit by trains?
Wait, your sister got hit by a train?
Well, they're
Yeah, in a way.
they're trying to say she
Yeah, I
got
guess you could say that.
trains run on her.
Oh,
You know?
Look at me. What a silly idiot. Oh.
Yeah, this guy's got train on the brain. These guys.
I'm thinking of actual trains over here.
Yeah, I guess in a lot of ways, Scott's sister is a public service.
Oh, my God.
It's a public utility.
just
legally.
Yeah, just used and used and used.
Yeah, there's like people have right of way to Scott's sister's vagina. It's a public right of way.
They tried to privatize Scott's
an easement.
sister.
There's an easement going into.
No.
Joe
You know what else happened with
hold
the
on,
train
hold on. Wait, shut up.
systems?
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm not. Sorry. Joe Biden's like, now we can't have Scott's sister's vagina being privatized. Now come on, people depend on that resource. Man.
Meanwhile, his son is just a part of running trains on her. Anyway, another problem with the subway
maybe
system.
we should have a new character who's. I feel like she.
Yeah,
You know.
Scott's sister.
Yeah, but then what do you
Yeah.
No, we might jump the
just
shark.
gotta talk
though,
about
you know?
Mike's
I don't
family
wanna jump the
members.
shark.
Yeah, you guys talk about my family.
Yeah, I
member.
don't want to introduce your fat sister, and then everyone's like, "This season sucks." Like when the Brady Bunch got like the cousin, you know, Mike's fat sister, she sucks. Look how uncomfortable Mike gets.
She's actually been working really hard.
Yeah, so is my
she's
sister.
She's actually been working really hard to
At the Zeppeli stand at the Italian festival in Jersey City this weekend.
lose the weight we keep it.
Yeah, she's been working really hard as a backup dancer for Lizzo.
Yeah. She's going to get her money.
Yeah,
in
now
that
she's gonna find a new job.
Damn.
Okay.
Man, that's a recurring character. Scott's sister is a recurring character in the.
Yeah, she gets brought up a lot.
I'm
I'm surprised it
learning
took
a
this
lot.
long
I had-
in a train episode for her to get brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm glad Sean reminded me.
Well, you know, you got to fill
About her.
you got to fill 2 hours
Yeah,
every week.
2 hours every week.
And
Yeah.
then that's an easy way to fill 5 minutes.
Yeah.
When did you guys start taking the
I
train?
wish Sean
though?
had a sister.
No. I just have a heroin addict brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't bring that up.
Not quite as funny.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, he's slutty too, but he's doing it for.
Yeah, he sucks
for
just
heroin.
as much dick.
Oh my God.
But no one wants to picture it in their head.
Actually, fun fact: Sean's brother sucks more dick than Scott's sister.
Yeah, Scott's sister at least she buys like diapers with the money those truckers give her. Those truckers in the New Jersey Turnpike. She doesn't just spend it all on drugs.
Damn.
I'll tell you what. I tried to cut the budget on Scott's sister 4 times, and I'll try to cut it a 5th time. Anyway, do I have another fun fact over
Well,
here?
you were talking about the
Dude,
train museum, maybe?
The train museum was great. I wanted to
The New York Transit Museum, which I have been to, by the way. Very much recommend if you're in New York.
It's great.
Especially if you're
How
like
many trains they got?
a bit of a train puzzle piece head like I am.
Yeah.
It's very you
How
can
many
go
trains they got?
you can go to the old subway cars and sit in them, and they have like the old ads from the 1940s and stuff.
You're a
It's
big
like,
fan of the trains, of the
yeah,
subways?
I love the subway. That's
Nice.
part of why I live in New York.
No.
Where are you from originally, Sean?
Seattle,
Oh,
which
okay.
actually they just just finally built like a Sound
Used to
Transit rail line, a light rail in Seattle. Like it only opened like a year ago. It has existed, but a stop by my parents' house only opened like a year ago.
Oh, nice.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, even, I mean, New York, if you look at the subway system and from where it started, like the idea of, a subway system, you would think or hope it would start extending to the rest of the country because part of it is like, the future. Even though part of that worries me, you go, you're digging under the whole country. But anyway, you go, throw away the city, who gives a fuck? That's basically what we've done.
You would think you could
right?
take the A train to like
Boston
Western
at
Virginia,
least. Yeah, at least Boston, right?
Yeah.
Because fuck Connecticut, dig under there. But you don't get that. And part of the reason, I don't know if it's, I don't know percentages, but what you notice is when you start getting out into like the towns and shit in Queens where the trains all of a sudden are no longer built, it's because people don't want you going there. Like the people who got there, they got their cars and they want you to stay the fuck away.
Yeah.
I think Jersey actually has a better, not underground train system, but a train system going from even like my mother's town to Manhattan is easier than certain parts of Queens or even certain parts of Brooklyn is like very weird you have to hop on a bus before you even get on a train.
Well, also Queens and Brooklyn are huge.
Yeah.
Well, when they built the subway system, there was like, and now like one of the guys who invested in it, he lost all his slaves in the Civil War. And then they were like, we're going to build the first underground railroad. They were like, oh, sorry. Like he got really offended when you would call it the Underground Railroad.
Yeah. But like the best beaches in New York, I mean, Robert Moses built it so they're like not accessible by the subway.
Yeah.
So
he also was a big proponent of the car. If it was up to him, I mean, they would have gotten rid. I mean, he would have just infested all of Manhattan Island with highways. He wanted to, and he wanted to rely more on the highway. But people were so used to the subway, people were so reliant on it. They're like, no, stay away. Don't touch it.
Yeah, so he was in control I wrote it down, from 1934 to 1968, Robert Moses was in control of like all of it. The trains, all of that shit.
He created his own
and
position.
He just wanted everybody to see what he did from the skylines because he's a type of autistic. As most of us are, but
he's like the bad kind.
Yeah. And well, because
son
of that,
is the good
he
kind.
didn't pay attention to the subway system because it's underground and you can't see it. You can't look at it like, whoa, look what he did.
But it was also for like regular people, for like poorer people.
Yeah.
But
he was also racist, by the way.
I have the same thing in SimCity 4. Is if you build a subway line, you can't see it, and it's really annoying. So instead, you just got to like bulldoze a bunch of neighborhoods and do an overground train, so you can kind of autistically watch it go around in circles while you're too high to call your mom like you're supposed to on this Sunday.
Yeah. Robert Moses, he called them all the N train. He said every line.
Fucking guy.
Yeah, Robert Moses was he demolished neighborhoods. He didn't give a shit, man. He was bad.
But that is interesting, though. I mean, just to kind of go back, so it was like 3 private subway lines, and then two, and then in the 1940s, Mayor LaGuardia buys them all up and puts them under city control. But I guess it is just curious to me because I know the railroad, the Continental Railroad in the U.S. was also built by private companies.
Yeah.
I guess I am just. It's interesting how the business model works of private companies actually building these things because they don't really build them anymore. So I guess
well, that was actually one of the complaints, quote complaints about it not being private is that it has been no development since it's all been public. Since it went public, there have been no new lines, really. I mean, the only one is like the Second Avenue line, which took decades to make.
Right.
But they say, especially big business people are like, that's because it's not private anymore.
Well, they raised the price of the train
and they've
in
raised
like for the Second Ave line in like 1940 or something like that. And it didn't get even started until like 70 something.
They raised the price of the train?
Yeah. Like the cost of the train
to ride it
because they're like, hey, we're going to work on the Second Ave train in like the 40s, and they didn't even begin giving a fuck about it until the 70s.
Yeah,
so people are just paying money for nothing. This has been the whole story the whole time.
Right.
It's they only just maddening.
They only just opened up the Second Avenue station in Hudson Yards, and you guys have been there?
No, I don't think
it's actually the Second Avenue station. I mean, it's a brand new station. It's beautiful, and it's in Hudson Yards.
You're talking about the 7 train.
The 7 train, yeah. Sorry, the new 7 train stop in Hudson Yards, and it's gorgeous. And it's like it has to be that nice because you need like a nice, beautiful subway station for the last thing you see before you go jump off the suicide monument in Hudson Yards.
The vessel. Yeah.
Yes, the vessel.
Wait, what is
before
this?
you go
What is-
kill
Oh,
yourself.
is that the thing that looks like spikes?
That's the thing they closed because too many people were jumping off.
We're jumping off.
Yeah.
I heard a 15-year-old kid jumped off it. He was like on vacation with his family.
Jesus.
Now imagine that dad. You're like, you work your ass off. You save up for this bullshit vacation all year. You're
Kid
like,
jumps off of it.
yeah. You're like, my kids better appreciate this. I just spent $80 at the M&M store. You know.
That's true. I mean,
And
is
then your son is like lagging behind. You're like, come on, Justin, let's go. We gotta go. We gotta see the thing.
Yeah, because you couldn't stop at the manga shop and read
Right.
mangas.
Yeah.
H&M.
Yeah.
You're
You
like-
can take him to Hot Topic.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
Muji.
Because there's no
Yeah.
Hot Topics in Manhattan, which is
Yeah.
true.
I hate
it
that
seems
kid.
like a problem. Yeah, I hate that kid too.
The dad's like shelling out $10 for a Times Square hot dog. Like, how
Yeah.
can this vacation get any worse?
Yeah.
The vessel's closed now because of it?
He did what?
Yeah.
You're not even sad when you find out he did it. You're like, he did what? I worked overtime for 3 weeks.
That's his mother.
Yeah. So
Well,
I
even
could
you have
take
to
you kids to the
cancel a flight.
fucking Disney store.
Kids, yeah, the kid doesn't realize how inconvenient it is that you also have to like stop a flight now,
Yeah.
the flight home.
Yeah.
And then like, do you get a hotel? Do you stay longer? Yeah,
Just
'cause your
wait.
kid's body has to stay there.
Well-
So you have to continue staying on vacation, but it's not vacation.
Scott, this is the train episode, not the teen suicide
Oh, yeah,
episode.
sorry.
Is the vessel still closed?
I think it is. I don't
'Cause
know. I'm not sure.
I do want to go up the vessel, but what if you go up and then there's a voice like, "Do it, scum."
For real.
right.
It's just like there's just like a fucking Necronomicon demon up there that just talks to you if you go to the top of the vessel.
Eric Adams like, so we removed the demon, and now we're gonna have a party up there. New Yorkers, we got the demon out of the Hudson Yards. He's like wearing like he's wearing one of those weird suits. Like the Dr. Evil suit. He's like, yeah, it's popping up here. He pisses me off. I don't know
He's
what
bad.
it is.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
know what
bad.
it is.
I'm too
He's way
unfamiliar.
worse than DeBozo.
Oh, he had such a funny line
Is he
the other
worse?
day.
I don't know.
He's pretty bad.
Wait, so how's he worse? Because I'm not really following.
Wait.
Well,
Eric Adams, I mean, he sucks, but he got heckled for like one of his many bad policies, and he said back to the heckler, "In the end, all my haters become waiters at my table of success."
That's fucking cool. That's a good line.
yeah.
Hey, we liked Muhammad Ali for shit like that. Why not a mayor?
He's kind of a guy like people hate him so much you start to feel bad for him, and then you root for him a little bit. He's a little bit like an anti-hero.
Yeah. I mean, although he just, you're right though. All he does is like go out and party. He parties at what's it called? That place on Bond, Zero Bond. That's like his big hangout over there with like Giselle and Tom Brady's out there every night.
No
But
shit.
now you see those parties, it's like freaking TikTok stars.
Yeah.
It's like guys that Cooj and like Little Mo. Those are like the celebrities that show up. I mean, it's
At those parties?
At those parties,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Right?
Lil Mo?
That guy-
Cooch and Lil
there's-
Mo?
Yeah, that guy Cougine who eats the sandwiches.
Oh yeah, the sandwiches guy.
But those guys are like the celebrities that
That he
come
hangs
by.
out with.
Yeah, it's not like Robert De Niro and Harvey Keitel anymore. It's like some TikTok guys.
Oh man.
Anyway, I did not learn a single thing in the Transit Museum, but at one point my kids stopped running around, and I have a little trivia question for you guys.
All right,
do
let's
it.
hear it.
All right. In what year did the first female bus operator start operating a bus? Is it A, 1934, B, 1956, C, 1973, or D, 1998?
Like female bus driver.
Yeah. What year was the first? There's got to be a smarter way to say
What are the
this.
first
but what
three?
year was the first female?
It's definitely not the last one. So what are the first three again?
It was the 70s, you said? 1972?
Yeah, 1973,
73, 98.
56, 34.
I don't know, 73.
Yeah, because you want to say 56, but then you go, wait, the Honeymooners came out like 61 or something.
there were no female bus
and
drivers
there were
during the
no
Honeymooners.
female
Yeah.
fucking bus drivers.
During
That was like a
Honeymooners.
nostalgia.
Yeah.
That was like a nostalgia show, right? The
No,
Honeymooners.
that was current.
yeah,
that
that
was
was
living in
good.
the city at the moment.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I'm gonna
yeah,
say
yeah.
70. I'm gonna say 73.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I would say 73.
Or it's
yeah.
98. That's on it.
Yeah, it was 1973.
Yeah,
Mary Bembry was among the first 4 women to operate buses
It
in
took
Manhattan.
4 women. to do it. It was one bus with 4 women. There's 2 women looking out the back window. You're good. Bear left.
One's operating the gas, one the brakes, one the steering wheel, and then one the windshield wipers.
They was like Flintstones. Their feet were at the bottom.
There they go. The
ass.
first female. Yeah, and they were like, they're really girl bossy about it. They were like,
female boss. They did it all themselves, folks. Give it up for them.
they're like, 4 of us can do anything a man can do.
It's made out of cardboard. It's like a Little Rascals race.
It's just like a wagon.
Yeah, they painted fire on the side of it. You're like, all right, whatever.
Yeah. So Mary Bembury in 1973, but in 1976 she was one of the first 4 women to operate buses in Manhattan. So I guess they had. So she did it first, and then in 76 there were 3 more. Myrna Wright, the first woman to operate a bus in the city, had been driving in the Bronx for 3 years when 4 women were assigned to the depot at 2nd Avenue.
You know how she learned to drive a bus?
How?
Because when she was driving the U-Haul to move into her girlfriend's house after a week of dating. She's a lesbian.
Do lesbians move in with each other?
And folks, don't forget to join our Patreon.
I might be a lesbian.
What is happening?
If you want to hear, if you like jokes, if you like really strong jokes, please go to patreon.com/outforsmokes and join our Patreon.
I just had to say something.
That was good.
For $5 a month, that's where we that's where we put all the good jokes over on Patreon. So, give us a little,
Did you see anything at the Trans Museum about the Miss Subways? Do you know what that is?
No, I heard about that. Tell us
From
a little
the
about that.
So like the 1940s, the ad company that sold ads on the subway. They started like a pageant thing called Miss Subway.
It was whoever had the most bags.
No, it was
Whoever
actually
could fit the most
It
bags.
was actually no. It was like a beauty pageant, and they would put like single women on the Miss Subways, and it was like every month, and they'd give you their story, whatever, just to show how many eyeballs were on the ads, so they could sell ads. But then in the 70s, they stopped, because there was so much
crime was too bad, right?
No, because the graffiti and the vandalism on all the pictures was so bad. They're like, we got to stop. This is getting like really inappropriate, because you can imagine the stuff people drew on all these
There
pictures.
was a guy waking up every morning like, oh boy, a new Miss Subway to put a dick in her mouth.
That was pretty much like a lot of
They just dropped a fresh one. I better be on the train at 4 a.m.
There
today.
was a line. People had to get there early to be the first one to draw.
And how would they find Miss Subway? The guy would just go around with a Polaroid, like secretly snapping pictures of women.
The corner of the subway station. No, I actually don't know how they would find them, but that was like a big thing, like a big pageant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So, because a lot of people from our parents' generation have a lot to say about New York in the 70s and 80s, and we can see a little bit of it from, you know, movies like Taxi Driver or Mean Streets or whatever it is. But like, what do you think, and how bad was it? Is really as bad as they say it was? Because I feel like we don't really have a reference for that. And now you also hear people today be like, it's worse than it was in the 80s, which, you know, because I feel like boomers are always lying and being dramatic.
Well, yeah, they're also being very, very misinformed as well. Like everything's alarmist and like, you know, the sky is falling.
Because I had an uncle one time, he was like, yeah, I was driving down Atlantic Avenue and a cop pulled me over and he was like, just run the red lights or they'll kill you. He said a cop pulled him over to be like, It's like, well, that means that cop thought that you looked like the biggest pussy that he ever saw on Atlantic Avenue.
People did used to run through reds. I've heard that too. Back in the day, they used to run through reds.
Yeah.
You get carjacked and stuff. They do that still. They do that still in like Latin America, man. You go to like, you know, Nicaragua or something like that, or Peru, and they'll tell you it's okay to run the reds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the cops won't get mad at you.
Jeez.
But yeah, it was pretty bad in the 70s. It was pretty terrible. Like the crime was just through the roof, and it was empty. Like there was no one here. Like people left. Like there was hundreds of thousands of people just left. And what's kind of messed up about it is I don't know if you guys know what know about like redlining and all that stuff. That was back in the day. So the neighborhoods now, like Bushwick, Williamsburg, Bed-Stuy, these were all neighborhoods that were pretty much like condemned by the government and like completely starved of funds. And so they were poor, they were minorities, and they would struggle in those neighborhoods. Now, what's funny is that the irony of it is now those are the neighborhoods that like companies and developers and everyone are rushing into because there's more money to be made. because they've been starved. But yeah,
exactly.
it's like they've
It's
been
just
completely
unused land.
Exactly, unused pretty much. Like
Yeah.
just buildings that were abandoned, all that stuff, and they get bought up for pennies.
And everybody like wants to live in Bed-Stuy. Like everybody who moves here, it seems like wants to be a part of that
yeah, well,
neighborhood.
Bed-Stuy now, I mean, in like 5 years, it's not going to be affordable. I mean, it's already kind of unaffordable, but it's going to keep moving out. People are buying up East New York. They're buying up Brownsville. Yeah, people are buying up like the brownstones and all the like townhouses in those neighborhoods. Brownsville's where like Mike Tyson's from.
Yeah.
People are going to, and Bed-Stuy, but they're buying up those buildings and stuff. So
yeah, I did a painting job in East New York for this girl that like just bought like a little row house.
Oh yeah.
And we were walking around and like, you would think like when someone sees a white person in East New York, they'd be like, fuck you, get out of my neighborhood. But everybody was like really nice. And everybody was like, oh, is this your house? And I was like, no, I'm just painting the walls in here.
No, I mean people are pretty nice. I mean, it's interesting though. You will get people who are upset and angry, like they'll yell stuff. I remember like when I used to do walking tours and stuff for groups, we would get yelled at every now and then in neighborhoods. Like in Harlem, we get some people who say stuff.
Oh yeah,
but not a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there's some tension. There's some tension out there. I don't blame it. I don't blame anyone for having it.
Yeah.
But no, it's not as bad as it was in the 70s, that's for sure.
Yeah. Did you ever like come back at the people who yell at you and then the whole tour claps and they give you extra money?
No, actually, it's funny because like I feel like I could never come back.
You're like, oh yeah, your mama.
Yeah.
Like
one time,
nice shoes.
This is actually kind of funny. I was doing a tour one time and I was doing a tour like where the courthouses are. And I was finishing a tour from Chinatown, and I was telling everybody, like, all right, these are the courthouses. This area is a little boring compared to what we just saw. And there was a woman walking around the tour, and she heard me say that, and she goes, boring. And she started kind of like, she's like, boring? This isn't boring, everybody. This isn't boring. I work here. I'm a lawyer. I work here. This isn't boring. I was like, God, this is so annoying.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
whatever.
We have a Sweet Green and a Chipotle.
Yeah, pretty much. But then I was just getting tired of this one. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I was trying to play along. But then I was like, look, man, I don't have anything against this place.
Yeah.
I was like, I used to be a lawyer. Look, I'm not trying to badmouth your area. And she goes, you used to be a lawyer? And then she goes, looks like things are going really well for you.
Jesus.
In front of the whole group. And I was like, holy crap. I don't even, before I could even say anything, one of the women in my group just leveled her, just completely let loose. Like, what kind of pathetic loser? You're saying that? And this woman just kind of left with her tail between her legs.
Where were you? Like near Chinatown? Like
that
near
was
the
like,
courthouses?
it's called Foley Square. It's where all the courthouses are. They're near Chinatown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of doing tours, you should be doing something good for the world, like defending people who dump industrial PCBs and rivers into the Hudson.
Yeah, finding a way for GE to save money on taxes or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of courthouses over here, and like this neighborhood is almost a little boring.
Yeah.
It's kind of bland.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's a lot of
you're right
different
next
places you can
to
salad.
Brooklyn Heights is great, man. Brooklyn Heights
is nice. Yeah.
You're right on the kind of like the border, which is great.
Yeah.
You're right next to the Transit Museum.
Yeah,
I
you
am
have the
right next to the
Transmuseum like
Transit
2
Museum.
blocks.
Yeah.
The Hoyt Schermerhorn.
But this neighborhood, it's very like, Chipotle.
Yeah, well, that's
type-
a
it's
lot of
Chipotle
neighborhoods now,
neighborhood.
man. That's
everywhere. That's
Sure.
the
Yeah,
country,
dude, that's all. Like that's crazy. You know what's crazy?
Sure.
That the whole like franchise thing is kind of a new thing in New York.
Yeah.
There was a story about this is a good example of it. 7-Eleven pulled out of New York in 1982 because no one was going to them. They're just like their bodegas and everything. Like this isn't working. It wasn't until like 2005 that they're like, we're sensing a sea change here. So they opened one near Madison Square, and they've been exploding ever since. But it just kind of shows you that there is a world where people in New York value the small business and everything, and it's able. It happened on St. Mark's. They opened a 7-Eleven on St. Mark's in 2010.
Yeah.
And everyone in the neighborhood united against it, and eventually it closed down.
It closed.
Yeah, it closed.
That happened in Burlington, Vermont, right? They tried to open a McDonald's there or some fast food chain. And
It happens a lot.
They had to go out of business within like a year because no one went to it. And now I think in downtown Burlington, you can't open a chain or something.
Yeah, well,
like
that's
that.
one of the things that they kept like Walmart out for a long time. They're still keeping them out, and then I would say they let like Target in. I remember when I first moved here, Target was just getting in. Everyone was so pumped about it, but it was a huge
You're right.
fight.
There was a delay. There is a delay from the suburbs to New York.
Yeah, and
so there is a fight. That's good.
Yeah,
Right.
but now what's happening is like there's an author who says that New York's being remade for people who don't like New York. So now they're basically turning New York into the suburbs. So then all these people who are like, oh, I can go to New York. Now they have my Starbucks and my Chipotle. Now it's like attracting the wrong people, the people who don't actually want a city experience.
Right. Which is kind of crazy because I went into Starbucks last week and I just walked there. I had time to kill. I went in. I was like, there's no reason to go here. There's nothing you could find here that you can't get at like the giant like Chinese-owned discount store.
Yeah.
For like half the price or much
Right.
less.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like there's not.
Well, it's
I-
familiarity.
Starbucks.
It's just familiarity. People know what they're getting.
Yeah,
You can get a latte at the Chinese discount store.
you can't get Starbucks. No, they don't have Starbucks.
Oh, okay.
They don't
Not
have.
yet.
They don't have. But everything else, I don't know. Well, but those stores are like there's something like cool about them.
I think
you
it's just-
really can find anything that you need there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And also, I think what people forget is like when you have a small business, you're investing in the neighborhood. All that money goes back into the neighborhood because the manager, the owner, all of them are there.
Mm-hmm.
The money you pump into Starbucks is all going to the corporate office.
Yeah.
Everyone who works there is transient. They're passing through.
Yeah.
There is no roots in the neighborhood. There's no investment in the neighborhood. They're not vested in it succeeding.
Yeah.
They're just there to. There was the same author says that the chains come into a neighborhood to feast on the carcass of the culture of the neighborhood. They're basically there like as vultures. Like once the neighborhood's been beaten down enough and it's quote safe enough or whatever, they come in and kind of feast. And then,
Right.
Damn.
After the heroes like Bernie Goetz clear out the neighborhood,
Oh God.
the big businesses come
Yeah.
in and
Sean,
take it.
tell the Bernie Goetz story because I vaguely know about it.
Yeah, Bernie Goetz was the subway vigilante.
Are you familiar with it, Tom?
Yeah.
In,
Death Wish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In 1984, Bernie Goetz shoots, what is it, 4 men?
I think it was
Yeah.
5.
It was 5.
No,
so
it's-
He's right. It's
Five?
4.
4?
It is 4.
He's riding the subway, and 4 African American 19-year-olds come up to him, and they go, "You got $5." And
Yeah.
he goes, "Yeah, I got $5 for all of you," and he shoots all of them.
Right.
And then so he fled, and nobody like knew
Right,
who
right.
he was for the
And
longest
it's
time.
like, you know, that situation where it's like there's a lot of argument back and forth about whether the kids were trying to rob him. And it's like, yeah, I could buy. And he'd been robbed before. But what kind of makes it fucked up is he shoots them all, and then he goes over to one of them and he says, what does he say? "You don't look so bad. Here's another," and he shot him again.
He was on the ground. Yeah.
And I think he shot him in
yeah.
the spine, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
one who's
Yeah.
paralyzed. Yeah.
They all lived, but then one of them is
paralyzed.
paralyzed.
Yeah.
Right, and
Who-
the paralyzed guy was the guy who shot after, and he sued Bernie Goetz, and he got he got like 40 million, but apparently Bernie Goetz has just like chosen to live in poverty, so he never has to pay any of it.
How do you pay off 40 million? How do they make
He's
that?
supposed to get his wages garnished. Like 10% of his income was supposed to go to that, and you know.
I mean, you know,
But for a while, he was like this like mystery man. Like nobody knew who he was because he
well, and
fled.
people were kind of rooting for not.
Well, it
no one
divided
was
the
rooting
city.
for him,
It
but
divided
yeah.
the city.
the papers
Yeah.
were treating him like a vigilante.
Some
This,
people,
you know,
yeah.
because again, this is the 80s where
Yeah.
everybody is sick and tired of how bad the city is, and then. Unfortunately, the more and more the story unfolds, it's like it seems like a guy who has maybe PTSD from being robbed,
Yeah.
but because of that, he just went ape shit.
Yeah.
Which is not good. And you know the complete lack of any real sort of remorse.
I can't believe that was my kid knocking on the door.
Yeah, he's learned how to
You're
knock
impressed
on
that
the-
he's knocking now instead of just like
I thought
slamming
that
his
was
head
Deb.
on it on
I
accident.
thought that was Deb knocking on the door. It was so like
It was so
pronounced.
polite.
Yeah, thought something bad was happening.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
was
healthy
funny.
knock your kid has.
Sorry. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he was knocking, and I opened it, and he just had like the biggest smile, like he just played a prank and made me look like an idiot. He ran off.
But it's not just his lack of remorse. It's the more and more you see interviews with him.
Well, he was
it's-
picking a fight. He did it.
Yeah,
he did it
he's-
waiting for someone to come up to him.
He like very much knows that it might be in question if these kids were really trying to rob him or if they were just like being kids on a train, which we see a lot of, which is like when you're a kid on a train, you're just loud.
Yeah,
And it seems like this guy kind of hopped on a train, very agitated, having been robbed before, but saw everything as disrespect, and he was like ready to kill. He said his intention was to kill all of them. And his biggest regret
Yeah, he
was
was
not
thinking-
shooting them more. So
he
it's
said
like,
he wa- he
even
said-
after the fact, it's like, what the fuck is this
well,
character
his
you've
lawyers,
taken hold of,
his
you know?
lawyers were like pissed at him because they were like, "This guy never stops talking."
Yeah, he just
Right.
talks
He-
too
he
much,
was
and he
just-
thinks he's like the Punisher, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you didn't read the Punisher.
Yeah.
The Punisher wasn't out yet. I
Right,
guess.
like when we say that he, said to one of them, "You don't look so bad. Here's another," and leaned down and shot him again. He went into the detectives and told them that without his
Yeah.
lawyer.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, all right, buddy. I don't think you know too much about how the legal system works, but
And he would go to town meetings, apparently. Like a year before, he went to a town meeting and basically said a bunch of like slurs and said, we need to get all these types of people out. And then he said a few slurs. So it's a problem, obviously.
Yeah.
Look, we've all been on the subway and seen people we wish we could shoot in the spine, but we don't do it. And that's what makes us civilized.
Well, I'll put it this way. In terms of race relations, he was no Scott Chaplin.
Yeah, you know what it reminded me of? The scene in The Joker, because I saw the scene in The Joker before.
It was
I
based
found
on
out
that,
about
actually.
this guy.
Yeah.
Well, they made a movie about this guy.
Oh, no shit.
It's called Death Wish.
Oh, okay. I
Charles
didn't know that
Bronson.
was
Well, it
about
was
him.
based on this guy.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Wait,
the
I
movie
thought-
was made before the guy.
The movie was made before.
But this guy considered himself Charles
Oh,
Bronson.
wow.
Death Wish.
Yeah, from Death Wish. Sorry.
Because, you know, in the Joker movie, you get that sense of, oh, is he in the right for shooting these people on the train? They intentionally create that feeling of like,
and they really make
should
it like
they have died?
They
And you
really
go, what
make
the
it
fuck?
really morally ambiguous by having the guys he shoots be a bunch of Wall Street white male jackasses
yeah.
making $200,000
Yeah.
a year,
Who we all
because-
dismissively would love to see die.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's there's a lot of moral complexity in I'm sure these fucking Goldman Sachs portfolio managers are gonna fucking harass you on a subway.
They've harassed many a men,
Though actually
especially when they are dressed like Joker.
a Goldman guy got randomly killed on the subway somewhat recently.
Really?
Yeah, he got shot and killed like
What?
I don't know, a year or two.
A Goldman Sachs banker?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I was
He was messing with the Joker.
But I guess like like I think about New York in the '80s a lot because we don't really have we didn't live through it, so it's like it just makes you wonder how bad it really was. Because when your parents go, oh yeah, there was crime everywhere, like my mom would be like, Times Square was full of porn, and but we didn't live through it. But then at the same time, like there were communities of people who were living here in the '80s and just like going about their.
But they weren't thriving. I
Going
think
about
that's
their
like
life. They weren't
that's the
thriving,
evidence
but-
is they were all there were people going about their business, but like if you look at the actual stats, I mean, unless someone is going to the police station 3 times a day,
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, I got punched in the head," and fibbing about it,
Yeah.
like shit was bad, and it's not just bad like, oh, is it because I feel the same way. You know, you grow up with parents, you kind of roll your eyes at them. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
What did you
yeah.
actually see?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But the fact that there are people who did like live in this, I mean, the fact that also you can actually look at what the government did to the city and what the city did to itself, and the fact that they did redline half the city, and then all of a sudden crack is everywhere, and the crack epidemic is a big issue that contributed to crime. So you can't you just can't deny the facts, because then it's also denying any wrongdoing from the top, because they let it all happen. They almost wanted some of it to happen, which is weird, where you go, wait, why the fuck would you do certain things you're doing?
I read this YouTube comment on a video I watched about Bernie Goetz. It says, "Crazy."
Well, I'd like to
It's
enter
like
into
the-
evidence this YouTube
Yeah, a
comment that I
YouTube
read.
Well, it was,
That is the modern equivalent of a caller to the Howard Stern show's opinion on Bernie Goetz.
Yeah,
Worse.
Cuck Killer 69 says,
right, but it says, "Crazy the cops put out thousands of cops to get someone killing muggers instead of using those same cops to stop the muggings. I'm old enough to remember the years that this happened. If you rode the subway at night, you had a 50-50 chance of being mugged." I don't know how accurate that is. And thousands of people were stabbed by these muggers. I say this guy is a hero. He single-handedly cut crime on the subways. Huge at the time. I say he's a hero, not a criminal, as the jury thought also. The jury, actually, when they convicted him, half the jury had been a victim of street crime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of crime back then. That's why it divided the city so much.
Right.
But then you
And-
throw race into it, and that's another thing. Like
Sure.
it was divided on racial lines. It was just a really complicated thing.
Sure.
Yeah, he was charged with manslaughter or attempted manslaughter, but he was
Right.
only convicted of illegal gun
Right.
possession.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of suck. You're a black teenager. You can't get a job. You and your friends are like, yeah, we'll just walk around. We'll just rob some people and commit some crimes. And then you're like, hey, well, I bet this little nerd over here, we
Yeah.
can get $5 from
Look
him.
at this.
And then
Look at this pussy with a comp sci degree.
yeah.
That's an easy $5, don't
Oh,
you think?
also how honest those kids were.
And then you're just paralyzed.
Yeah, and you're paralyzed the rest of your life.
yeah.
well, how honest those kids were, that when asked by police, where were you headed? You guys were on the train. Where were you headed? They said they were going to rob an arcade.
Yeah.
So they're not even acting like we're not here fucking around. They weren't like, oh no, we're innocent.
Man, the 80s, huh?
It's
Nobody
just,
lied.
This guy
Everyone's
was
honest.
wrong. small. Yeah,
One of them had a weapon, I think, too, like a screwdriver.
Well,
yeah.
the screwdriver was the idea. You can pop open the arcade and take all the quarters out. The arcade machine.
Oh wow.
Back in the day. Yeah. The Goldman guy, that was in May 2022. It was a Goldman Sachs employee, was just riding the Q train at 11:50 a.m. Just some guy randomly goes up, shoots him in the torso.
Dude.
And he died.
He died.
Wow.
No, unprovoked, too.
Wow. A Goldman Sachs banker or just like a
Goldman Sachs employee.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Custodian or something.
Yeah,
That'd be a different story.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that's Well, that's a crazy thing. The subways had lots of like crazy things happen, obviously, in it. There was actually a subway accident. I want to say it was like 1920. But one of the subways, a guy was basically driving it, was charged to drive. It was like a 20-something-year-old kid who had never really driven a subway car before. And he crashed it right near Prospect Park. It was called the Malbone disaster because that was the name of the stop at the time. And he crashed it. 100 people were killed.
What was that?
It was a wooden subway car at the time. So the thing was like
In the 20s.
splinters. It was completely destroyed in the 20s. And that was one of the reasons why they started this. That was one of the things they used to start the city-owned line. They're like, look at what a mess this is. We need to start another line. And that was one of the things they used. But 100 people and like hundreds of people injured. This thing was completely shredded, this train. And even in like the 90s, there was one train at Union Square. One of the drivers was
Eric
drunk.
Adams is like, the trains might be shredded, but you know what's shredded? Is me from veganism.
Is he vegan?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
did not know that.
Yeah.
But there was a drunk conductor at Union Square. I think it was in the mid '90s, and he crashed. He just came in at like 40 miles an hour to Union Square and just like killed a few people in a mess. So,
And those people were on the train?
I don't think so. I think and a bunch of people were injured, and some of those people were on the train. But I think it was like 5 people died at that accident, something like that.
Jeez.
But yeah, it happens. I guess it continues to happen.
Well, also thanks to the subway system, all those mole people get to live. There's like 5,000 of them.
I don't know if the mole people are still there. I think that
Where
was
would
early.
they go?
I don't know if they got kicked out.
That was like a hipster thing.
No,
They
in the early
left in
2000s,
like
the mole-
2015.
they did that documentary, and I think they might have like started
They
like
bounced. They had to find another
I
hole.
think they had to get
Well,
rid of them.
Vegas is big on that now.
the mole people.
Well, Vegas, it's the sewer system, I think.
Oh,
because
really?
They don't have a subway system in Vegas, but in Vegas, the sewer system is like I think in the thousands now.
Really?
There's
Thousands
just
of
a
people.
town under Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the mole people got gentrified out. Like,
Well, the mole people, I think it was like five. Am I
was
lying? It was like 5,500 people or some shit. And it's just people who lived in the subways, like a community, not just like adding up homeless people that live in the trains. Like mole people, they live like the Ninja Turtles in the train system.
right.
They
'cause
have their
there's-
own society.
Yeah.
There's abandoned subway stations.
Yeah.
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 And just tunnels tunnels
Tunnels,
generally.
Yeah, and they all just live there. And
Yeah.
I would assume you picture like fires
kinda
in,
cool.
yeah, right? Like it's what we always dreamed of, kind of.
Yeah.
Like the foot soldiers. What were those guys in
And Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles,
Yeah,
you
foot
know?
soldiers.
Yeah, you have like an underground layer and you just hang out and you put I always wanted to put my cold hands over like a fire, you know, with other struggling men.
Yeah,
Do
the
you?
trash can fires.
Yeah,
They're like
trash can
yeah.
fire.
Yeah, they had those a lot too back in the day. I guess that was like in the 70s. All those like bombed out lots. That was another thing back in the 70s. People would burn down their buildings.
Yeah.
They would pay people to like arson their own buildings.
Yeah.
So they could just get the insurance because they were worth more burnt down to them.
Right. The
So
Bronx
there-
is burning.
The Bronx is burning. That's a great book, by the way. I don't know if you read it. It's called
Oh,
Ladies
okay.
and Gentlemen, The Bronx is Burning.
Nice.
And it's about the year 1977 in New York.
Huh.
And they talk about the blackout, the mayoral race, the Yankees winning the World Series, Son of Sam. All that stuff happened in one summer. Pretty
Oh,
much
wow.
one summer and
Yeah,
fall.
and you say the moon doesn't affect people, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting
But
because
why would they put the Yankees winning the World Series with all those good things?
well, right. We got a Yankee hater here, but it was the year the blackout when. An interesting fact: you talk about gentrification. The neighborhood that had the most arrests during the blackout, it was looting. The worst neighborhood of all of them was Bushwick.
Yeah.
And today Bushwick is like obviously very expensive now
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that. But that was the worst one.
I think in the movie Ghost, Willie Lopez takes the J train to like Myrtle Avenue.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah. Bushwick I think it's where Eddie Murphy's from. I think.
Yeah.
Bushwick.
Chris Rock might be from there too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
No, I thought Chris Rock maybe is Bed-Stuy. Am I
He
wrong?
might
Yeah,
be
it's
Bed-Stuy.
Bed-Stuy.
That's right.
Biggie's
That's right.
Bed-Stuy and
Yeah,
Chris Rock is
Rock's
Bed-Stuy.
yeah.
Sorry.
You had a question?
Yeah, why did they take the maps out of off the subway platforms? There's no maps anymore.
There's still maps down there.
Yeah, they're
In
just
Union
annoying to
Square.
find. You just have to like sometimes they're on the other side of.
They have
of
those
a post.
screens
Oh, okay.
now.
So
They have
I'm
those
a
like
fucking
LED.
idiot, I guess.
I think you're some sort of
You're
dumbass.
saying I'm fucking stupid? I'm some sort of dumbass?
Hey, where'd they go?
No, they still got them down there. They still have them down there. Yeah.
I swear to God, I was on a Union Square the other night, and I was looking for a map because I'm like, because my train wasn't running. I'm like, how do I get home? I couldn't find a single not on the train, on the platform.
Yeah, I agree.
I couldn't find a single poster map.
No, they
anywhere.
don't have those anymore as much, and it's ridiculous. I agree
Why is
with
that?
you.
What
I
is
don't know.
that?
They have because they have those
That's some
stupid.
Eric Adams bullshit.
They have those dumb screens now. They have those like LED
Yeah.
screens.
Yeah.
Those aren't the same. I don't like those either.
But there's no permanent.
I don't see those
maps.
maps. I agree.
You have to like
I know.
Google. You have to Google the NYC Subway map and download it.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I don't either. I
Yeah.
agree. Especially when you don't have a smartphone or something. You're like,
Yeah, he's got a flip phone. You see this flip phone he's carrying around?
Tom?
Yeah, he's got a flip phone.
It's,
I'm so
oh.
jealous.
Yeah, this is my phone, so I don't have internet, and I can't But
Is that court order?
That's so funny.
or,
You have a flip phone and like far higher video production value than we do. Like,
Listen, we just need lights.
yeah.
We just need better lighting in here.
No, Tom films his stuff outside.
I film it outside. Yeah,
Maybe the
Yeah,
sun is the
most of
best
it.
light.
we need better lighting.
Yeah.
go sit outside in the park and do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to ask. I watched your Subway video. Is it you can't really like shoot video in the Subway, right?
You're not supposed to. They give you a lot of shit. I've done it before, but they do give you a lot of shit. Like I've done stuff where they kick you out and stuff. But like for example, there's a stop. Here's a little thing. If you want to impress your friends,
Yeah.
stay on the 6 train. At the end of the last stop, you go to the 6 train all the way to Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
And that's the last stop. And they say, everyone, last stop, stay on it. And then the 6 continues to turn around through the first subway station.
Mm.
So you if you're in the train by yourself, you look out the window or you go out in the middle and you can watch, you see the first City Hall subway station
That's so
with
cool.
all the tiling and everything. And in fact, they say it was the inspiration for the Ninja Turtles 2, where they find the abandoned subway station and that's where they live. I don't know if you guys saw it too, Secret of the Use.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're saying that's
That was supposedly one of the inspirations for that because it's an abandoned subway station that they don't use and they can't because the cars are too big now. But you use it to turn around. So if you stay on there, you can see it.
Okay.
It says City Hall and all the tiling and everything is pretty cool.
Do you have any tips on how to get like a free beef patty?
what's the
Speak
best train to
Spanish.
fall asleep on?
The best train I don't know. That's a good question, actually. I don't know. The A is the longest train. If you want a nice long sleep,
Oh, that's good. yeah.
31 miles is the A line. It'll take you all the way from 207 to Rockaway.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's a big thing.
Your
People-
fentanyl high will still be going by the time you
Exactly,
get to the
you're
end of the
good.
A train.
Yeah.
Another reason it goes out to Rockaway and Coney Island, it's because of Coney Island, right? It's because during the creation of, again, the subway system, they stopped giving a fuck about it in like the 40s. But at the time, they were like, everybody is going to be going to Coney Island.
yeah.
Coney Island is the shit. It's fucking Disney World, you know? And so send all the trains out there, and then that didn't work out either. Yeah.
Why'd
It's
it
also
work
really
out?
expensive to make so it's like $7 billion to dig half a mile in this city.
Well, yeah.
because the
but-
machine they use, because they don't do that cut and whatever anymore. They use it. Apparently, it only takes 12 guys to stand there, but there is a giant machine they use.
tunneling machine.
It's some sort of tunneling machine, and it costs $7.
Yeah.
Boring.
like
Sorry, it's a
$5
boring machine. That's
billion.
why Elon Musk called
Yeah,
the company
boring
that.
machine.
Yeah.
There you go, boring machine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more expensive here than any other city because you got to deal with all the buildings and then the schist, all the granite, all that stuff. There's a ton of things that makes it more
Yeah.
expensive.
You have to
But-
make deals with ghosts and
Yeah.
stuff as you enter their layers. You know,
Right.
the different types of demons you
Right.
encounter that
You
you have
need-
to sign contracts with.
You got to have like make work jobs for the demon at the top of this suicide monument.
It does suck though that so much, because you go, everything is just the government or the city or the whatever.
are you?
They won't put
demon's
any
like-
money into this shit.
You have to bring the demon Chipotle every Wednesday, or he'll haunt the car.
Lucky for us, we all did mics with the demon in 2013.
Yeah.
So he doesn't charge us.
Yeah,
Saw you guys on Tinder.
the demon's surprisingly the only comic without rape accusations.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He's a stand-up
He's
guy.
honest.
Why are comedians always raping each other? Can't you get pussy on your own?
And a whole other topic is subway
Yeah, that's true.
performers.
That's true, demon. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, it's not that hard to talk to girls and get laid. Have you ever done
I
Subway
think you found a new merch.
The Subway Demon.
The Subway Demon.
Yeah, Subway Demon tote bags.
Have you ever done a set on a subway on a train? I've done maybe
No,
two.
but
in
I
my
have.
life. I think 2 in my life.
Oh
yeah.
god, that sounds brutal.
I'll
Man.
tell you what.
Yeah.
I was on the A train one time, and this homeless guy came on and
You start doing stand up on the subway. They're like, please just shoot us. Please be Al Qaeda.
Daniel Penny just
All right,
chokes me to
you're making
just
interference.
chokes me to death. I'm sorry.
You're good.
No, but this guy came on and he was I guess he was like homeless or he was like pretending to be, and he did stand up, and it like we're so burnt out on stand up because we've seen so much of it. The magic is like totally
Right.
gone. I swear to God, this guy's set made me like love stand up comedy
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
It was like so
Was it
exciting and
funny?
fun to watch. It was
Wow.
He's talking about how he like takes his wife to PS 118 for a date night. And then he like did his set and he's like, all right, everyone, make sure you pick up your rappers. I got company coming over tomorrow.
Oh my
I was like,
god.
this is great.
Yeah, that's good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you actually have to for like the big subway stops, you have to audition to be a subway performer.
Really?
Yeah.
There's like a commission
the
or something?
MTA has auditions like once or twice a year. And
Wait,
you
shut up.
Yeah.
yeah.
What?
You can't just
Yeah.
set up shop.
They have a big problem with the casting subway bench. A lot of homeless guys
Yeah.
just suck off MTA employees to get their performer's license.
And Harvey Weinstein is actually in charge.
Yeah,
there
that's
now.
right, yes.
He was demoted. No, actually, they actually have
Eric
auditions.
Adams like, if you want to sell churros on the subway.
That's why it's always a
You
fucking
gotta-
violinist. I go, what homeless guy is
Yeah.
playing the violin
Well,
in
when you see the ones
2023?
with,
It's
like,
some
the-
fucking snob.
Well,
it's
what do
like-
they do if you didn't make the audition process? They kick you off?
Well, no, you can play in like in the side or whatever, but if it's like the big spots,
Mhm.
they're usually reserved for the subway approved people.
These motherfuckers.
Yeah, yeah. And
You ever go to like there's that diner in Times Square where it's all people
Oh, yeah.
who aren't on Broadway
Yeah.
plays,
Was
but
it
they
Ellen Stardust?
desperately want
Stardust,
them to,
yeah.
and they sing to you. Isn't that nice? And you hate how nice it is. You sit there and you get like a waffle with rainbow
I've never
sprinkles
been,
on
but
it.
that place is like that's like a big deal for aspiring Broadway people to get
yeah,
that job.
man. Oh yeah, and they
Yeah.
get good tips and they sing their little hearts out.
they
Yeah.
make good money there. Oh, that's interesting. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh for
yeah,
sure.
but
They
I
got
think
it.
it's
There's
like
lines out the door.
it's like a stepping stone to
Yeah.
to Broadway.
to
or they-
Broadway.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been in like movies before and everything.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
really? Shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you see all the there are some like good subway performers though. You see like
Oh,
people playing, you're like,
yeah.
damn, this person's pretty talented. They don't usually last very long because they actually do stuff. But
Sure, especially there's a lot of great subway
Yeah.
dancers.
Yeah, I saw the subway performer. She was like, she came in the train and she was carrying like a box of candy, and she had a baby on her back. She must have been like an actress or something because
Yeah.
it just like moved me. I like started
there's
crying
performance art.
because it was so sad.
Yeah, sure.
Surely she wasn't.
There's a lot of those
Really?
sad.
Mike, how are you creating all that
I don't
interference?
know.
I saw a woman, a young girl. I don't know. She's probably my age. I got a problem with age, thinking that 33-year-old women are young girls. But she was like, "This is my dream. I know that you might judge me, but this is part of the journey." And then she starts singing, and she's fucking awful.
Yeah.
And you're like, "This is wild." And then she was like, "Thank you so much." And
What
then
song
she
did
hopped
she
off the
sing?
train. Oh, I have no idea. This was like months ago.
Yeah.
But man, she was bad. So there is some of that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then you have the people who are just singing because they're kind of crazy. Like they're just crazy people singing.
Yeah,
And
you
they-
think a guy's hitting a good note and he's just in pain,
Yeah,
holding
yeah.
his stomach.
Or
Yeah.
they're just not even all there and they're just singing and they sing and they're just like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get some money, but this is what I'm going to do.
You don't really see the Showtime kids anymore.
That's true, I guess. You only see them on certain trains, though. The L train, you see them.
Yeah.
That's where you see them.
What
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of subway performers, especially the dancers, they're dancing in areas like Times Square and they're filming it, and they all have like so many TikTok.
Yeah.
To be a dancer and the background is Times Square blows the world's mind. Like kids in China are just like,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Huh.
yeah.
Maybe that's the key
So go to
to
Times Square and
and
just
do
like
stand up
do that, and they're just amazed at the background.
Mm.
Yeah.
and just do stand up even.
Yeah.
Hmm. Maybe they ban filming in the subway not for like terrorism reasons, but they just don't want anyone to make any more sketch comedies on YouTube.
Yeah. I remember Jeff Wesselschmidt made me he's like, I'm filming something on the train. And then I'm like, okay. And then I had to sit down on the train while him and Michael Shockey tried to push each other into shit. Like someone was like,
oh my God.
Jeff was like, that's a duty. And then Michael was like, ew, that is duty. And then they were trying to push each other's faces into it. And everyone on the train is like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And then I just sat there.
What did you do?
I just sat there and watched it.
You were an extra.
You were
Yeah,
like
I was
an
like an
extra.
extra.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
Oh.
Oh, I had to drop the turd. That's what I had to do. I had to walk by and drop it.
Oh.
And like place it somewhere so they could react to it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Damn, it's so cool to move to New York to pursue your dreams, isn't it?
And drop your
dumb.
turds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Any final thoughts or
no, I do love the train system.
yeah?
I do. I like the subways. You said
great.
it is the reason you moved here. Is what?
It's
just
one
the
of them,
quickness
yeah.
of it, or because
Yeah.
you're scared of cars?
Well, I mean, that too. Yeah, I hate driving. And it's just nice to, like, you know, you take a book on the subway, you read it, you go out to the bar with your friends, you don't
Hate
have to worry
driving.
about getting home.
Yeah.
You can just be a little drunk and take the subway home, you know. And yeah, actually, it is nice to, like, see people, you know.
Yeah.
It's a communal space in a country without that many of them.
Yeah. I also really like exploring another city's metro. Like if
Yeah.
you go to DC or maybe not Boston because I don't love the subway in Boston's like not great. Somebody just threw their Dunkin' Donuts. Oh,
Yeah. And
into
that was
their- into
actually,
their
that was
windshield.
open before New York's.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
right. Yeah.
And also, it's funny because New York, we were talking about this a little bit, Sean, but one of the cool things I think about the subway system in New York is like it democratizes transport a little bit.
Yeah.
Like there's everybody on there. You know, you have people in suits, you have people whatever. And it was actually when it opened, it was it was like a kind of innovative to do that. Like for example, like Paris and I think London too, they had first class cars. And like New York's just like, yeah, whatever, you just get in a car. It doesn't matter. Everyone's in the same car. I think that's kind of cool. Like you see all, and it's New York. You don't have
Excuse
New
me,
York
there is a man going pee-pee in the first class car.
But yeah, you don't see, I guess.
What is the meaning of this? There's a man defecating in the dining car.
There's a man servicing himself.
Which, speaking of that, I've never seen anybody masturbating on the subway.
No.
You've never seen that?
No. I think it's a myth.
Oh, I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, I guess.
I think I've seen somebody jacking off in the station, but not in the
I've seen
car
a few
itself.
women finger themselves on the train.
Really?
Yeah.
Dear Lord.
I've probably seen like 45 men jerk off and 4 women.
We did
finger
see that lady, the
themselves.
3 of us in Midtown, that was just like walking up and down the street, and she was talking about like some guy having a roach dick. Remember that? And then
Oh,
she
yeah, that was
and then
great.
she dropped her pants and started pissing in the street.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
not
remember
really
that.
But that's not a subway story. That's a
That's
street
a street
story.
story.
Street
Yeah.
Yeah, you see people peeing all the time on the street,
Yeah.
on the subway, though.
And then
Oh,
Scott
yeah.
got her number.
Dated her for 3 months.
He's like, I'm just going through a break. Scott's rebound.
There's a woman pissing in the street.
Scott's
Ask
like,
for a number.
Scott's like, I got a place you can piss. My face.
Hey, I did a show in DC that was a railroad. That was
There
the
was a
former
railroad?
like railroad.
It was what is like a
It's like
station?
DC Underground or some shit.
Mm.
And it was an old railroad station.
Wow.
Yeah, I did that like 3 years ago. It was awesome.
Comedy
Anyway.
show. Oh.
But yeah, it's just fun going to like Chicago. I really like a city where you can get off the plane and get right on the train. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's great. You can get on the subway here and take the subway from JFK. That's kind of a pain in the ass, though.
Yeah.
It is.
They're raising the subway fares again.
I saw that. What is it? 290?
290.
Yeah.
Dude, they're putting a fucking toll where in like the center of Manhattan.
Yeah, and they're
So
also
to go from uptown
yeah.
to downtown, downtown to uptown, you got to pay.
Not on the train.
On the cars.
No, in the cars.
cars.
Yeah.
Well, and they're
but it's
also
like
they're also now like tracking. They're going to be tracking as fare evaders, people
Right.
who like jump the turnstile.
Which that's
Taking
crazy.
pictures and shit
Every
of their
time-
faces?
Yeah.
These
Well, every time you
motherfuckers.
go on every time you go on the train, on the other side of the gate, there's like 2 people from like a private security company
Yeah.
standing there.
They've been
That's
doing that.
ridiculous.
It's
isn't
kind
it?
of crazy.
I've
Yeah.
noticed more and more cops stopping people, which is very annoying.
That's Adams.
Well, there's
Adams
like-
is making the more cops everywhere.
Eric
There's a-
fat ass.
There's an article in Gothamist. We probably don't have time to talk about it at any great length, but they just talk about, the MTA, which runs the subway, is $48 billion in debt, and they said the reason for that almost entirely is because since the 80s, all subway improvements and upkeeps have just been put on basically the credit card. Like it's all just done through debt with the banks. So something like 40% of the MTA's operating costs are just servicing the debt or just the debt payments. You know, they spend $3 billion a year servicing the debt. And so it's just a situation where, because since the 80s, you know, politicians that are captured by these various bankers have just decided the subway should be entirely financed through debt, that there's now this massive debt bubble, and they're starting to talk about, oh, we're going to have to cut back services in order to service this debt. And that's just like, I mean, that would be a nightmare, but it is, let's say, a looming catastrophe in New York, because the city doesn't work without the subway. If you start cutting back services or constantly raising fares instead of just making, you know, maybe some of the debt holders take a haircut. But they're allergic to doing that in the United States of America.
And what is it? The MTA is like basically loaning the subways off of the city or something?
Well, MTA is a state. It's a state agency. MTA.
Okay,
it's a state agency, and then the New York. So under the MTA is like, you know, the LIRR. It's like the New York Metro North is also the New York City Transit, which is the subway. Okay. But MTA is a state agency, so that's all the politics of the state gets involved with the subway, which is kind of messed up, because the subway is, you know, New York City, and then the counties have a say in it, and, you know, the governor has a say in it and all that stuff. So it gets to be pretty sticky, I guess.
Yeah, Gothamist says this year the MTA will pay an amount on its debt that represents 40% of its fare and toll revenues. 2 decades ago, the ratio was 20%.
Wow.
So it's not necessarily just, you know, I mean, yeah, the subway's more than 100 years old, so yes, it is run down. You have to have upkeep costs and such, but it is more just the way they have financed things has been entirely, we're just going to give our banker friends all this debt. We're going to do it through debt with our banker friends, and then the payments on that debt are kind of the main thing that is driving this fiscal crisis.
Yeah. It should just be free. We should make France pay for it. I don't know. They got to find a way to make it, keep it going.
We should give them back the Statue of Liberty and say
right.
instead just pay for everybody's train fee.
We should sell the Statue of Liberty on Facebook Marketplace.
And then use that money to pay for
and the buyer never shows up. You're like, don't you want the Statue of Liberty?
Dude, we should definitely resell the statue. It was a gift, and we should resell it.
We should regift it.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a good point. All right. Well, Tom, any final thoughts or plugs or anything
I don't know.
we didn't get to?
I don't know. I guess we kind of covered a lot. We kind of covered a lot there.
We beat up that subway.
Yeah, we really talked a lot about the subway. I don't know. I think the subway is pretty great. I don't know. You guys like it?
I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think it's amazing.
I'm looking forward to taking it home tonight and being delayed by an hour, just like I was last week.
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know. It just sometimes when the R line, when it runs late, sometimes it'll just like stop, or it'll like, you know, late at night it'll just move like 5 miles an hour.
Can you take the 5 to the R?
I guess I could, yeah. I'll figure it
do
out.
that. I'd take
Last
the
week was
4 or 5
fine.
to
I
the
just
R.
like complaining.
It runs slow
but
at
that
night.
sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was once on the L train. It runs slow into Brooklyn late at night.
It's so annoying.
And it was packed, and there was this guy who got on. Who was really drunk, and then the doors close and it starts moving really slow, and the guy pukes on the ground.
Yeah.
And the whole way there, the puke just started to move down the car, and everyone's dodging it the entire time.
It's just 5 miles an hour.
Yeah, and all the way there. It was like fucking 10 minutes of just puke going through the entire car, and people jump up and down.
Yeah.
That's great.
One time I got on a train and the car, it smelled really bad. So we went to the next car, and then we got to watch people get onto the car and like smell it and then leave.
That's it.
For like 5 stops we did that. People go, "Oh wow," and they get in. They go,
"Yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah."
Oh, now the thing is subway surfing. People are doing the subway. Have you seen that?
No. They're standing on top of them.
Yeah, have you guys seen this?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Kids
kind of a couple of kids have died, but one kid recently died, and his friend fell off too, but they got injured. But people are riding on top of the subways, the 7 train, especially because that's where I live. You see like 5 kids walking on the train and doing that. I'm like, that's insane.
At what point are they dying? Is it when it goes underground?
Well, whenever they hit like a thing or they turn too sharp, they fall. Yeah.
Because kids have been riding trains since trains, you know? Like kids just hop on
but in
trains.
the train, in the boxcar, like the boxcar children.
Yeah.
Not
you know
on
what's
top
cool?
of the
On
train.
top of the train's crazy, dude.
You know what's cool?
I think across this great nation, a lot of suburban kids have hopped on trains and ridden on the top of them.
That's true.
I think it's common, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. It's actually legal to smoke cigarettes and marijuana on the subway as long as you don't care about people giving you passive aggressive looks.
Yeah.
It's not legal to
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
But I see people spark up like a lot late
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do.
Well, we got to wrap up. Tom,
All right.
thanks so much
Yeah,
for being
thank you
here.
guys for
Thank
having
you,
me, man.
man.
Super
Best,
fun,
dude.
man.
Check out Tom's YouTube page,
Yes.
Instagram,
Yeah.
Twitter, whatever, all the shit. Go see him live. I was just on a show with him Friday. He's hilarious.
Yeah,
Great
Tom
man.
D NYC on YouTube. Check out all his stuff. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/OutForSmokes. $5 a month gets you a bonus episode. And we're doing pre-orders again. We got new t-shirt designs coming. We got this one, the classic Out for Smokes tee. OFS shirts at gmail.com if you want one. Can't guarantee if they're going to be in stock, but if you want a shirt, shoot me an email. You get the email with me, Mike Racine. It's not, it's not some kid in,
Bangladesh.
yeah, Bangladesh. It's me. 5-star customer service. If you got anything to say to me,
Right.
order a t-shirt.
Yeah, Red Scare. You got to deal with the sweatshop if you get their
Yeah.
merch.
Yeah.
The sweatshop manager talks to you.
Yeah. And it looks like they do run a little big. Just want to give you a little heads up. I'm usually a large t-shirt. This is comfortably an extra large. And that's it, everybody. The show's over. OFS shirts at gmail.com, patreon.com/outforsmokes. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.